that feeling when your entire world shatters over turkey and stuffing? When the people you've sacrificed everything for look you dead in the eye and tell you that you never mattered at all? That was my Thanksgiving 2023. And honey, let me tell you, what happened next is something I never saw coming. My name is Lauren Mitchell. I'm 33 years old, and this is the story of how I lost everything and gained something far more valuable in return. This is about betrayal, resilience, and the moment I finally stopped being the good daughter and became the woman I was always meant to be. But before we get to that fateful Thanksgiving dinner, the one that changed everything, you need to understand how I got there. You need to know about the years I poured into Mitchell Construction Company, the countless nights I stayed up fixing my father's mistakes, and the brother who smiled to my face while plotting behind my back. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let me take you back to where it all began. Part 1. The Good Daughter. It was March 2013 when my father, Richard Mitchell, sat me down in his corner office overlooking the construction yard in Fairfax, Virginia. I was 23 years old, fresh out of Virginia Tech with a degree in business administration and a head full of dreams that had nothing to do with concrete and steel beams. "Lauren," he said, his weathered hands folded on the mahogany desk that had belonged to my grandfather. "I need you." Those 3 words. God, how those 3 words would haunt me for the next decade. Mitchell Construction Company had been in our family for 42 years. My grandfather, Thomas Mitchell, started it in 1971 with nothing but a pickup truck, a toolbox, and an unwavering work ethic. By the time he passed it to my father in 1998, it was bringing in $8 million annually, building commercial properties across Northern Virginia. But by 2013, the company was drowning. The 2008 recession had hit the construction industry like a wrecking ball, and my father, brilliant at building structures but terrible at managing money, had made some catastrophic financial decisions. He'd expanded too quickly, taken on too much debt, and trusted the wrong people. "The bank is threatening to pull our line of credit," Dad continued, his voice cracking in a way I'd never heard before. "We're 3 months behind on payroll. I'm going to lose everything my father built." My mother, Helen, stood in the doorway, her perfectly manicured hands clutching a string of pearls at her throat. She was always the portrait of suburban elegance. Blonde hair styled just so, clothes that whispered old money even though we were bleeding it by the day. She said nothing, as she always did during business discussions. That was men's work in her world. "What about Daniel?" I asked. My brother was 28 at the time, 5 years older than me, and ostensibly working in the company's project management division. My father's jaw tightened. "Daniel has his own path. He's learning the hands-on side, working with the crews. I need someone with your head for numbers, someone who understands systems and operations." What he meant was, your brother is useless with anything requiring actual work. But I can't admit that out loud. "Dad, I have interviews next week. McKinsey wants to bring me in for a final round. I could be making 6 figures. I'll make you a partner," he interrupted. 20% stake. Once we turn this around, you'll own a piece of something real. Something with history. Something that matters." I looked at my mother. She smiled that soft, helpless smile that said, "Be a good daughter. Don't make waves. Family comes first, so I did what good daughters do. I canceled my interviews. I moved back home to save on rent. And I threw myself into saving Mitchell Construction Company with everything I had. The next 2 years were a blur of 18-hour days. Financial restructuring, and learning an industry I'd never planned to enter. I discovered I had a gift for it, not the construction itself, but the business of construction. While my father and brother understood buildings, I understood profit margins, cash flow, vendor negotiations, and operational efficiency. I renegotiated our supplier contracts, cutting material costs by 22%. I implemented project management software that reduced timeline overruns by 35%. I found government contracts that my father didn't even know existed, rehabilitation projects for public schools, infrastructure repairs for county facilities, affordable housing developments that came with tax incentives. By the end of 2014, we were stable. By mid-2015, we were profitable again. By 2016, we'd paid off 2/3 of the debt. "You're a miracle worker, Lore," my father said one evening in August 2016, after we'd won a $4.2 million contract to build a new community center in Arlington. He actually hugged me. Richard Mitchell, who believed displays of emotion were weakness. We make a good team, I said, my heart swelling with pride. You remind me of my father, he replied. That same relentless drive. He'd be proud of you. I held onto those words like a life raft. They sustained me through the continued sacrifices, through watching my college friends get married, buy homes, travel to Europe and Asia for their corporate jobs, through the boyfriend who left because I was married to my work, through my 28th birthday when I realized I hadn't taken a vacation in 3 years, but I told myself it was worth it. I was building something. I was part of something bigger than myself. And Dad had promised me 20%, except the partnership paperwork never came. Every time I brought it up, there was a reason to delay. Let's wait until we're completely out of debt. Let's wait until after this fiscal year. Let's wait until the market stabilizes. By 2018, I stopped asking. The company was thriving. We'd broken $12 million in annual revenue, and I was making a decent salary as COO. Not the 6 figures I'd have made at McKinsey, but comfortable. And more importantly, I felt valued, needed, essential. My brother Daniel, on the other hand, remained perpetually on the periphery. He showed up to job sites irregularly, spent more time schmoozing clients at expensive steakhouses than actually managing projects, and had a tendency to disappear for long lunches that turned into afternoons at the golf course. But somehow, he was never held accountable. My father laughed off his absences as networking and building relationships. When projects Daniel managed went over budget or behind schedule, I was the one who stayed up all night finding solutions. Why do you let him get away with it? I asked my father one night in 2019 after Daniel had blown a deadline that cost us a $50,000 penalty. He's finding his way, Dad said dismissively. Not everyone is built like you, Lauren. You're special. You don't need the same kind of support Daniel does. I should have recognized the warning signs. I should have seen what that really meant. You're capable, so I'll take you for granted. But your brother is a man, so I'll give him endless grace. In March 2020, just as COVID-19 shut down the world, Daniel announced he was getting married. Her name was Vanessa, a 26-year-old pharmaceutical sales rep with impressive credentials and an even more impressive trust fund from her late grandmother. The wedding was postponed until June 2021, and when it finally happened, it was a $200,000 affair at a vineyard in Charlottesville. My parents paid for half, despite the company having barely survived the pandemic shutdowns. I'd kept Mitchell Construction alive during those dark months. I'd pivoted us toward residential renovation work when commercial projects dried up. I'd applied for every PPP loan and grant available. I'd personally called every single one of our 64 employees to tell them we'd find a way to keep them on payroll. And we did. We didn't lay off a single person. But at Daniel's wedding, during his champagne-soaked toast, my father stood up and declared, "I'm so proud of my son. Daniel, you've grown into the man I always knew you could be. You're going to do great things." I drank 3 glasses of wine and said nothing. In October 2021, Daniel announced that Vanessa was pregnant. My parents were ecstatic. My mother spent weeks decorating a nursery in their house for when the baby would visit. My father started talking about legacy and grandchildren and the importance of family continuity. "Mitchell Construction needs to last for generations," he said at Sunday dinner. That's what matters. Not just the money, the name. The legacy. The baby, a boy they named Jackson Richard Mitchell, was born in June 2022. I bought him a savings bond and a sterling silver rattle from Tiffany's. Vanessa posted 47 photos on Instagram before he was 12 hours old. By 2023, something had shifted in the family dynamic, though I couldn't quite put my finger on what. My father started having private meetings with Daniel that I wasn't invited to. There were lunches with potential investors that I only heard about secondhand. Documents appeared on my father's desk that I wasn't asked to review. What's going on? I asked him in July 2023, after discovering he'd met with the company's attorney without telling me. "Nothing for you to worry about," he said, not looking up from his computer. "Just routine planning stuff. Dad, I'm the COO. Planning is literally my job. It's estate planning, Lauren. Personal family matters." Something cold settled in my stomach. "Estate planning involves the company?" I said, "Don't worry about it." I went to my mother, hoping she'd be more forthcoming. She was in the sunroom, arranging orchids and drinking herbal tea as she did every afternoon at 3 o'clock. "Mom, do you know what Dad's been meeting with lawyers about?" She didn't meet my eyes. "Your father has a lot on his mind. He's thinking about the future. About retirement. He's only 63. He always said he'd work until he was 70. Things change, sweetheart. Daniel has a family now. Your father wants to make sure everything is properly arranged. Everything like what? I really don't know the details, she said, which was her way of ending conversations she found uncomfortable. More tea? I left feeling unsettled, but I pushed it aside. We were in the middle of our biggest project yet, a $7.3 million mixed-use development in Tyson's Corner. I was working 14-hour days, managing 8 subcontractors, and navigating a nightmare of permit issues. I didn't have time to worry about my father's cryptic meetings. The company needed me. In October 2023, my father asked me to prepare a comprehensive financial analysis and 5-year projection for Mitchell Construction. It took me 60 hours spread over 2 weeks, but I produced a 40-page document that showcased everything we'd built. Revenue trends, profit margins, asset valuation, market position, growth opportunities. The company was worth approximately $18.6 million. We employed 83 people. We had $9.4 million in active contracts and a pipeline worth another $15 million over the next 18 months. This is excellent work, my father said, paging through the report. Really excellent, Lauren. Thanks, Dad. So what's this for? Are we finally talking about that partnership? Let's discuss it at Thanksgiving, he said. The whole family will be together. It's time we had a conversation about the future. My heart lifted. Finally. After 10 years, after saving the company, after sacrificing my 20s and half my 30s, finally, I was going to get what I'd been promised. I should have known better. I should have recognized the pattern. But hope is a stubborn thing, especially when it comes to family. November the 23rd, 2023, Thanksgiving Day. The date is seared into my memory like a brand. My parents' house in McLean, Virginia looked like something out of a magazine spread. My mother had gone all out, copper-accented table settings, a 15-pound heritage turkey, homemade cranberry sauce, 3 types of stuffing, and a centerpiece featuring autumn leaves and miniature pumpkins. Daniel and Vanessa arrived at 2 o'clock with baby Jackson, now 17 months old and wobbling around on chubby legs. My mother swept him up immediately, cooing and smothering him with kisses, while Vanessa documented everything on her phone. I'd arrived early to help with cooking, as I always did. I'd made my grandmother's sweet potato casserole and a bourbon pecan pie. I was wearing a rust-colored dress I'd bought specifically for today, wanting to look professional and polished for whatever conversation Dad had planned about the company. "You look nice," my mother said, though her tone suggested surprise that I'd made an effort. "Thanks, Mom." "Are you seeing anyone?" This was her perennial question, asked with a mixture of hope and concern, as if my being single at 33 was a medical condition requiring treatment. "Not right now." "Work's been busy," she sighed. "You should make time for a personal life, Lauren." Daniel managed to find Vanessa even while building his career. I bit my tongue. Daniel's career consisted of showing up 3 days a week and taking credit for my work. But I said nothing. Good daughters don't make waves on Thanksgiving. We sat down to dinner at 4 o'clock. The table was crowded with food and conversation. Daniel telling some long story about Jackson's new nanny. Vanessa showing my mother Pinterest boards for Jackson's upcoming 2nd birthday party. My father pouring expensive wine he'd been saving. I waited for Dad to bring up the company discussion. Waited through the salad course, through the turkey carving, through the first round of passing dishes. Finally, as we were serving dessert, my father stood up. He cleared his throat, that particular sound he made before important announcements at company meetings. "Before we finish up, I want to talk to you all about something important," he began. "This year has been one of reflection for me. I'm 63 years old. I've spent 40 years building Mitchell Construction, and I've been thinking a lot about the future. Here it comes," I thought. My heart was pounding. This was it, the moment I'd been working toward for a decade. "Your mother and I have made a decision," Dad continued. "We're selling the company." The room went absolutely silent. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. "What?" I managed to say. "We've been in negotiations with Piedmont Development Group for the past 4 months. They've made us an excellent offer, $19.2 million. The deal should close by February." I couldn't breathe. "You're selling?" "Dad, why would we sell? The company's thriving. We just landed the Tyson's project. It's time," he said simply. "I'm ready to retire. Your mother and I want to travel, enjoy our grandchildren, live a little." But you didn't discuss this with me. I'm the COO. It's my company, Lauren. It was always my decision to make. The words hit like ice water. My company. Not our company. Not the company we built together. What about the employees? I asked, my voice shaking. What about the contracts? What about... Piedmont is keeping most of the workforce. They're honoring existing contracts. It's all been handled. Handled? Dad, I spent 10 years, and we're very grateful. He interrupted, his tone making it clear the conversation was over. Now, here's what's important for this family to understand about the proceeds from the sale. He reached for a folder that had been sitting under his chair. My stomach dropped. He'd planned this. He'd brought documents to Thanksgiving dinner. Your mother and I have worked with our attorneys to structure this appropriately. First, we'll be paying off the remaining company debt, which is about $1.2 million. Then there are taxes, of course. After that, we'll be putting aside $3 million for our retirement. I was doing the math in my head. That left roughly $14 million. The remainder will be distributed as follows. Dad continued, reading from the document. Daniel will receive 60% as the primary heir and future patriarch of the Mitchell family. That's $8.4 million. Daniel's face lit up. Vanessa grabbed his hand, her eyes wide. My mother smiled, nodding as if this made perfect sense. Your mother will receive 25%, which is $3.5 million, for her years of partnership and support. And Lauren, he said, finally looking at me, will receive 15%, which comes to $2.1 million. The number hit me like a physical blow. After 10 years, after saving the company, after sacrificing everything. 15%, why? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Because Daniel is the oldest son, my father said, as if this were obvious. He has a family. He has a son to provide for. This is about legacy, Lauren. About ensuring the Mitchell name continues. I saved the company, I said, my voice rising. I was the one who turned it around. I was the one working 18-hour days while Daniel was golfing. I was the one... And you've been well compensated for your work, Dad said, his voice hardening. You've drawn a salary for 10 years. You've had health insurance, paid vacation, a company car. You're getting over $2 million for your contributions. That's more than generous. You promised me 20% ownership, I said, desperate now. In 2013, you said, plans change. Circumstances change. This is what's best for the family. I looked at my brother. He wouldn't meet my eyes. But I saw the slight smile playing at his lips. He'd known. He'd known all along. You knew, I said to Daniel. Those meetings. That's what you were planning. Lauren, don't be dramatic, Daniel said, using that particular tone he'd perfected. The one that made me feel crazy and emotional and unreasonable. Dad's right. I have a family. You're single. You don't need as much. I couldn't even finish the sentence. The rage was choking me. This is really not appropriate dinner conversation, my mother said, her voice tight with disapproval. Lauren, please. Jackson is right here, as if the toddler understood or cared about financial betrayal. I looked around the table, at my father, stone-faced and immovable, at my mother, clutching her pearls and avoiding my eyes, at Daniel, barely suppressing his satisfaction, at Vanessa, already probably calculating how to spend her husband's windfall. You're getting nothing, my father said, and I realized he wasn't talking about the money. Your brother gets the legacy. You get a check. Something inside me shattered in that moment. But something else, something harder, something fiercer, began to take its place. I stood up, my legs shaking. You know what? You're right about one thing. This is your company. You built it. You ran it into the ground. And I saved it so you could sell it and give my share to your precious golden boy. Lauren, sit down, my father commanded. No, I'm done sitting down. I'm done being quiet. I'm done being the good daughter who works herself to death for a family that sees her as free labor. How dare you, my mother started. How dare I? I laughed, a harsh sound. Mom, I gave up 10 years of my life for this company. 10 years? While you were arranging flowers and hosting bridge club, I was working 60-hour weeks. While Daniel was playing at being an executive, I was actually running the business. And now I'm finding out on Thanksgiving. That I'm worth 15% of what my worthless brother is worth. Don't talk about your brother that way, Dad said, his voice dangerous. Why? Because he's a man? Because he managed to reproduce? What exactly has Daniel done to earn $8.4 million except be born with a penis? That's enough! My father slammed his hand on the table, making the dishes rattle. You will not disrespect this family. You will not disrespect your brother. He is the future of the Mitchell name. You are what? What am I, Dad? Say it. I'm just the daughter. I'm the one who doesn't matter. I'm the one you used for a decade and then threw away. Silence. Heavy and suffocating, is that what you think? My father asked quietly. That we used you? I don't think it. I know it. You all knew you were selling. You knew for 4 months. And you didn't tell me because you knew I'd fight it. You knew I'd point out how insane this is. So you waited until the deal was done and presented it as fact. We didn't want to upset you unnecessarily, my mother said weakly. Well, congratulations. I'm upset. I grabbed my purse and my coat. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely button it. If you walk out that door, there's no coming back from this, my father said. I looked at him, really looked at him. This man I'd idolized, worked for, sacrificed for, and I saw him clearly for the first time. Small, petty, and terrified of change. Terrified of admitting that his daughter was more capable than his son. Terrified of a world where women could be just as valuable as men. Good, I said, because I'm done pretending this family values anything except maintaining the patriarchy. I walked out. Behind me, I heard my mother crying, my father cursing, Daniel calling my name with false concern. I got in my car, the company car I'd have to give back, and drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove, tears streaming down my face, rage and grief and disbelief warring in my chest. 20 minutes later, I pulled into a Target parking lot and screamed until my throat was raw. Then I called my best friend from college, Rachel Henderson. She'd been telling me for years that my family was using me. I'd always defended them. Not anymore, Rach, I said when she answered. You were right. About everything. Oh, honey, she said. What happened? I told her all of it. The sale, the distribution, the betrayal. Come to my place, she said immediately. Rachel lived in Alexandria, about 30 minutes away. Pack a bag and come here. You're staying with me. Rachel, I can't just… Yes, you can. You absolutely can. Come here, now, so I did. I went back to my parents' house. They were still at dinner, probably dissecting my outburst, and packed 3 suitcases with clothes, documents, and everything I cared about. My laptop, my grandmother's jewelry box, photos from college and high school before everything got complicated. I left my key to the house on the kitchen counter. And I left a note. I quit. Effective immediately. Don't contact me. Then I drove to Rachel's apartment and collapsed on her couch and cried until I had no more tears left. I spent that first week in a fog. Rachel let me stay in her guest room and brought me food I couldn't eat. I ignored 43 calls from my mother, 16 from Daniel, and 7 increasingly angry voicemails from my father demanding I stop being childish and return the company car. On December 1st, I returned the car to the office at 6 in the morning when I knew no one would be there. I left the keys with the security guard and walked away from Mitchell Construction Company for the last time. Then I did something I should have done a decade ago. I hired a lawyer. Her name was Patricia Okonkwo, a Harvard-educated attorney who specialized in business disputes and family law. Rachel's sister worked at her firm and got me an emergency consultation. Tell me everything, Patricia said, her dark eyes sharp and intelligent behind stylish glasses. I did. I brought her every document I could find, emails, financial reports, meeting notes, the original offer my father had made in 2013 about the partnership. I had copies of everything because I'm obsessive about documentation. It's what made me good at my job. Patricia listened, took notes, and asked pointed questions. When I finished, she sat back in her chair and steepled her fingers. Lauren, I need to ask you something. Did you ever sign an employment contract? No, I said. It was a family business. Dad said we didn't need formal contracts. Did you ever receive stock certificates? Ownership documents? Anything in writing that established your equity stake? My stomach sank. No, he kept saying we'd handle it when things stabilized. But I have the emails where he promised 20%. Emails are good, Patricia said. They establish intent. But without formal documentation… She trailed off, her expression sympathetic. I have no legal claim to ownership. I finished for her. Not exactly. Virginia has laws about implied contracts and quantum meruit, being compensated for the value you provided. But pursuing that would mean suing your family, which is expensive, time-consuming, and emotionally devastating. What about the sale itself? I asked. Can we challenge that? On what grounds? Fraud? Breach of fiduciary duty? Something? Patricia pulled out a legal pad. Let's look at this systematically. Who owns Mitchell Construction Company? My father. It was his inheritance from my grandfather. Is it incorporated? A sole proprietorship, LLC? I'd run the company for 10 years and never thought to ask these basic questions. It's an S-corp. My father owns 100% of the shares. Then legally, he has the right to sell. And he has the right to distribute the proceeds however he wants, with or without your input. Even though I saved the company, even though he promised me equity, even though, I'm sorry, Lauren, the law doesn't care about fairness. It cares about ownership and documentation. I felt hope draining out of me. So there's nothing I can do? I didn't say that. Patricia leaned forward. Here's what I need you to do. I want you to write down everything you did for that company. Every project you managed, every contract you negotiated, every system you implemented. I want documentation, metrics, before and after numbers. I want proof of the value you created. Why? You said I can't sue for ownership. No, but we might be able to negotiate. Your father is selling to Piedmont Development for $19.2 million, correct? Yes. When is the deal supposed to close? February, he said. Patricia smiled, and it was not a friendly expression. It was the smile of a chess player who'd just seen checkmate in 3 moves. Lauren, due diligence typically takes 90 to 120 days for a sale this size. That means Piedmont's people are going to be crawling all over Mitchell Construction, auditing everything. Financials, operations, contracts, personnel, systems, everything that makes the company valuable, okay? And who do you think built most of those systems? Who negotiated most of those contracts? Who's been the operational backbone of the company for the past decade? Understanding dawned. Me. You. Now, I'm not suggesting you sabotage anything. That would be illegal and unethical. But Patricia's smile widened. What happens if Piedmont's due diligence team discovers that the person who built most of the company's value just quit? What happens if they realize that half the vendors have personal relationships with you, not your father or brother? What happens if they discover that the operational systems they're buying are largely undocumented and exist primarily in one person's head? The sale could fall through, I said slowly, or at minimum, they might want to renegotiate the price. Especially if they discover that the company has serious operational vulnerabilities without you. But Dad and Daniel know how to run the company, Patricia raised an eyebrow. Do they, though? I thought about the 100 times I'd fixed Daniel's mistakes, the countless contracts I'd managed from start to finish, the vendor relationships I'd cultivated, the systems I'd built that ran the day-to-day operations, the institutional knowledge I'd accumulated. No, I said. They really don't. Then I suggest we document exactly how much they don't know, and we let Piedmont's due diligence team discover it naturally. I spent the next 3 weeks building what Patricia called the portfolio of indispensability. It was a comprehensive documentation of everything I'd done for Mitchell Construction. Over the past 10 years, it was damning. I'd managed or directly overseen $64 million in projects. I'd negotiated contracts with 37 different vendors, most of whom gave us better rates because of personal relationships I'd built. I'd implemented the project management system, the accounting system, the HR protocols, the safety compliance program. I'd written the operations manual, all 247 pages of it. Daniel didn't even know it existed. More importantly, I documented everything that had gone wrong when Daniel managed projects without my oversight. Cost overruns averaging 23%, timeline delays averaging 31 days. Client satisfaction scores 40% lower than my projects. On December 18th, Patricia sent a formal letter to Piedmont Development Group. It didn't threaten anything. It simply informed them that I'd resigned from Mitchell Construction and offered my services as a consultant should they need clarification on any operational matters during their due diligence. 3 days later, I got a call from Marcus Webb, Piedmont's Vice President of Acquisitions. Ms. Mitchell, he said, his voice careful. Thank you for your letter. We were actually hoping to speak with you. Would you have time for a meeting? Of course, I said, keeping my voice professional and neutral. We met at a coffee shop in Reston on December 22nd. Marcus brought Sarah Chen, Piedmont's Director of Operations. They were both in their 40s, sharply dressed and clearly concerned. We've been conducting our due diligence, Marcus began, and some things have come to our attention. We understand you were the chief operating officer? For 10 years, yes. And you resigned on November 24th? I did. May I ask why? Sarah asked. I'd prepared for this with Patricia. Keep it professional. Don't be emotional. State facts. I had a disagreement with ownership about the direction and valuation of my contributions to the company. Marcus and Sarah exchanged glances. Ms. Mitchell, Marcus said, in the past 3 weeks, we've discovered that virtually every system, every vendor relationship, and every operational protocol at Mitchell Construction has your fingerprints on it. The current management seems to have limited knowledge of day-to-day operations. I'm sure my father and brother are working to address any gaps, I said carefully. They've been trying, Sarah said bluntly. It's not going well. We've had 3 vendor calls in the past week where the vendor specifically asked for you. Your brother couldn't answer basic questions about ongoing projects. Your father seems to think Lauren handled that. Is an adequate operational protocol. I said nothing. I didn't have to. We're concerned, Marcus continued, that we're not acquiring the company we thought we were. The value proposition was based on operational excellence, existing relationships, and established systems. But it's becoming clear that much of that value walked out the door with you. That's unfortunate, I said. Ms. Mitchell, I'm going to be frank with you, Marcus said, leaning forward. This deal is in jeopardy. We're not paying $19.2 million for a company that's essentially rudderless. We've already identified at least $3 million in immediate operational risks. Have you discussed this with my father? We have. He's assured us that he and your brother have everything under control. Sarah's tone made it clear what she thought of those assurances. Then I'm sure they do, I said pleasantly. Marcus studied me. Would you consider coming back? If we could work something out with your father? No, I said firmly. I will not work for Richard Mitchell again under any circumstances. What if you weren't working for him? Sarah asked. What if you worked for us? I blinked. I don't understand. After the acquisition, Marcus explained, we were planning to install our own management team, but we're open to keeping exceptional talent from the acquired company, especially when that talent clearly understands the business better than anyone else. You're offering me a job? We're discussing possibilities, Marcus said carefully. But first, we need to resolve the current situation with this sale. Ms. Mitchell, do you want Mitchell Construction to survive? Did I? That was the question, wasn't it? Part of me wanted to watch it burn, wanted my father to lose the sale, lose the money, lose everything, just like he'd made me lose everything. But there were 83 employees who didn't deserve to lose their jobs because of my family's dysfunction. There were contracts and clients and people depending on the company. I want the company to succeed, I said, finally. I built too much of it to want it to fail. But, Sarah prompted, but I'm done being taken for granted. And I'm done watching incompetent men get credit for women's work, Marcus smiled. What if we could help with that? Over the next 2 weeks, Patricia and I worked with Piedmont's legal team to craft what Patricia called a realignment of incentives. Piedmont's due diligence had revealed exactly what we expected. Mitchell Construction without me was worth significantly less than Mitchell Construction with me. They'd identified $2.8 million in at-risk vendor contracts that were negotiated by me personally, 7 major ongoing projects totaling $11.3 million that I was directly managing, operational inefficiencies that would cost an estimated $1.2 million annually. Without my systems in place, client relationships worth approximately $4 million in recurring business that were tied to me, not the company, the revised valuation, $13.5 million. A drop of $5.7 million, my father lost his mind. On January 8th, 2024, he called me for the first time since Thanksgiving. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened to him rage for 3 minutes about how I was destroying the family, legacy, and sabotaging the sale out of spite. I deleted it and went back to working on my consulting contract with Piedmont. On January 10th, my mother showed up at Rachel's apartment. I watched through the window as she stood at the door, perfectly coiffed and clutching her purse, looking smaller and older than I remembered. Rachel looked at me. Want me to send her away? I thought about it. Then I opened the door. Hello, Mother. Lauren. Her voice cracked. Can we talk? I let her in but didn't offer coffee or pleasantries. We sat in Rachel's living room. She'd made herself scarce, and my mother twisted her hands in her lap. Your father is very upset, she began. I imagine he is. The sale is falling apart. Piedmont wants to reduce the price by millions. He says it's your fault. It's not my fault that Dad doesn't know how to run the company I built. You didn't build it alone, she said, a flash of her old defensiveness showing through. Your father ran it into the ground. I saved it. We both know that's true. She was quiet for a long moment. Why are you doing this? Why am I doing this? I laughed bitterly. Mom, why did you let him do what he did? You sat there at Thanksgiving and watched him give Daniel $6 million more than me for doing nothing. You said nothing. Daniel has a family. Stop. Just stop with that excuse. Daniel has a wife with a trust fund. I have nothing except what I built with my own hands. And Dad took it away because I'm a daughter instead of a son. My mother's eyes filled with tears. That's not fair. What's not fair? That I'm saying it out loud? Mom, you raised me to believe I could do anything. You told me I was smart and capable and strong. And then you stood by while Dad treated me like free labor and gave everything to Daniel. Your father comes from a different generation. So do lots of men his age. Some of them manage to evolve. Dad chose not to. She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue from her purse. What do you want, Lauren? Do you want him to apologize? I want him to recognize what I did. I want him to admit that I saved his company. I want Daniel to acknowledge that he's been coasting on my work for years. I want you to admit that you enabled all of it because it was easier than standing up to Dad. That's not... She stopped, looked away. I don't know how to stand up to him. I never have. It was the most honest thing she'd ever said to me. Then I feel sorry for you, Mom. But I'm done setting myself on fire to keep this family warm. She left crying. I felt bad for about an hour, then reminded myself that she'd had 33 years to choose me and never had. On January 15th, Patricia called me. They want to meet. Your father, Daniel, their lawyer, Piedmont's team, and us. When? Tomorrow. 2 o'clock? Piedmont's office is in Tyson's. What do they want? To negotiate. Your father realizes he has no leverage. The sale is dead without you, and he knows it. Good, I said. The meeting was held in a glass-walled conference room on the 14th floor. My father and Daniel sat on one side of the table with their attorney, a nervous-looking man named Gerald Foster who clearly wished he was anywhere else. Marcus, Sarah, and Piedmont's chief counsel sat at the head of the table. Patricia and I sat opposite my family. It was the first time I'd seen my father since Thanksgiving. He looked older, grayer. There were shadows under his eyes. Good. Daniel wouldn't look at me at all. Also good. Marcus opened the meeting. Thank you all for coming. We're here to discuss the potential acquisition of Mitchell Construction Company, which, as you know, has been complicated by recent operational concerns. Operational concerns, my father repeated bitterly. You mean my daughter holding the sale hostage? Mr. Mitchell, Patricia said calmly. My client has not held anything hostage. She resigned from a position where she was dramatically undervalued. The fact that her departure has revealed operational weaknesses is not her responsibility to fix. She built those systems to be dependent on her, Daniel said, finally speaking. It's sabotage, I laughed. I couldn't help it. I built those systems to be efficient and effective. The fact that you never bothered to learn them isn't sabotage. It's your incompetence. How dare you, my father started. Gentlemen, Marcus interrupted. Let's focus on solutions. Piedmont is still interested in acquiring Mitchell Construction, but only under revised terms that reflect the company's actual value and operational reality. He slid a document across the table to my father. We're prepared to offer $13.5 million contingent on Ms. Mitchell agreeing to a 3-year employment contract with Piedmont following the acquisition. My father's face went red. That's $5.7 million less than we agreed. That's $5.7 million more than the company is worth without your daughter, Sarah said bluntly. And what about Lauren's employment contract? Gerald, the lawyer, asked. What are the terms? Patricia slid a document to our side of the table. Ms. Mitchell would serve as president of Mitchell Construction, reporting directly to Piedmont's executive team, not to her father or brother. Salary of $275,000 annually, plus performance bonuses. 20% equity stake in the subsidiary that Piedmont will create to hold the acquisition. The room went silent. Wait, Daniel said. She'd be our boss? No, Marcus said. You wouldn't be employed by the company. My father's face went from red to purple. You're cutting us out? We're buying your company, Mr. Mitchell. What you do after that is your business. But we're not interested in retaining management that has proven ineffective. "You can't do this," my father sputtered. "The Mitchell name will remain on the company," Marcus said. "That was part of the original deal and we're honoring it. But Mitchell Construction will be run by the person who actually knows how to run it." I watched my father's world collapse in real time. Watched him realize that he'd lost not just money, but control. That his precious legacy was going to continue without him. "And the purchase price?" Gerald asked, trying to salvage something. "The distribution? That's between Mr. Mitchell and his family," Patricia said. "Though I would note that if my client accepts this employment contract, she'll be earning that 20% stake through her work, not as a gift. Which is more than can be said for some people's inheritance." She was looking at Daniel when she said it. "This is blackmail," my father said. "No," I said, speaking for the first time. "This is consequences. You wanted to sell the company and cut me out. Fine, but you don't get to sell my work, my relationships, my systems, and my expertise. That's not yours to sell. I built that company. You inherited it, ran it into the ground, and I saved it. We both know that's the truth. And now you're facing a choice. Take $13.5 million and walk away. Or refuse the deal and watch the company collapse because you and Daniel can't run it without me." "We can hire someone," Daniel said desperately. "Another operations manager? In time to save the Tysons project?" I asked. "In time to prevent the vendor contracts from falling through? In time to stop the clients from jumping ship? Good luck." Marcus cleared his throat. "We need an answer by January 22nd. That's 1 week. If you refuse, the deal is dead. If Ms. Mitchell refuses the employment contract, the deal is also dead." Think carefully. The meeting ended. My father and Daniel left without looking at me. I watched them go, feeling nothing but a strange, cold satisfaction. That week was the longest of my life. Patricia advised me not to contact my family. "Let them sit with it," she said. "Let them realize they have no other options." But my mother called twice a day, every day. I didn't answer. She left voicemails that progressed from pleading to angry to desperate. On January 20th, Rachel and I were having dinner when someone started pounding on her door. I looked through the peephole and saw Daniel. "Don't open it," Rachel said. "I have to," I replied. "This ends tonight. I opened the door." Daniel looked terrible, unshaven, rumpled, desperate. "We need to talk," he said. "So talk. Can I come in?" I didn't move from the doorway. "No, say what you came to say." He ran his hands through his hair. "Lauren, you're destroying the family." "I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped pretending. Dad is devastated. Mom is barely eating. They're going to lose millions because you're being vindictive." "Vindictive?" The word ignited something in me. "Daniel, you got $8.4 million for doing absolutely nothing. I got $2.1 million after a decade of 60-hour weeks. And I'm the vindictive one? You're getting a job. You're getting equity. You're getting way more in the long run because I earned it. That's the difference you've never understood. I'm getting it because Piedmont recognizes that I built something valuable. You are getting it because you have a penis and a baby." He flinched. "That's not fair. What did you do for the company, Daniel? Give me one example of real value you added. One project you managed successfully without my help. One system you built. One client you brought in. One anything." "Silence. That's what I thought," I said. "I'm your brother," he said, his voice breaking. "We're supposed to be family. We're supposed to take care of each other. You're right. We are. But family doesn't mean I sacrifice everything so you can coast through life. Family should mean mutual support, mutual respect, mutual effort. You and Dad wanted a family where I did all the work and you got all the credit. I'm done with that family. If you take this deal, Dad will never forgive you." "Good. Because I'll never forgive him for Thanksgiving. For 10 years of broken promises. For treating me like free labor while calling you the heir." He made his choice, Daniel. Now I'm making mine. "What about the money?" Daniel asked, and there it was, the real reason he'd come. "If the sale goes through at the lower price, we lose millions." My share drops to $5.6 million. Mom's drops. That's money for Jackson's future, for your future, you mean? Let me ask you something. Did you know? About the sale, about the distribution plan? Did you know before Thanksgiving? He looked away. "That was answer enough. You knew?" I said. "You sat in those meetings with Dad and helped plan how to cut me out. And now you're here asking me to care about your money? I didn't want to hurt you. Yes, you did. Or at least you didn't care if you did. There's not much difference. Lauren, please, go home, Daniel. Tell Dad I'll give them my answer tomorrow. And tell him that if he ever wants a relationship with me again, he knows what he has to do. I closed the door in his face. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what accepting the Piedmont deal would mean. I'd have the job I deserved, the recognition I'd earned, the equity stake I'd built, but I'd also be running my father's company without him. I'd be the face of the Mitchell name while he sat at home, bitter and angry. I'd see that bitterness every time our paths crossed in McLean's small business community. Was it worth it? At 3 a.m, I texted Patricia, "I need to add something to the deal." She called me immediately. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, but I want to make a counter-proposal to Piedmont." "Lauren, we negotiated a great deal." "I know, but I want to change the equity structure. Instead of 20% for me, I want 10% for me and 10% distributed to the employees, the people who've been with the company more than 5 years." Silence. Then, "That's actually brilliant. It ensures loyalty, incentivizes retention, and it shows you care about the people, not just the money." "That's because I do care. Those employees stayed with us through the recession, through COVID, through everything. They deserve a piece of this. Piedmont will love it," Patricia said. "It solves one of their biggest concerns about post-acquisition retention. I'll draft the amendment first thing in the morning. On January 22nd, at 9 a.m, we delivered our response to Piedmont. Yes. With the equity revision. At 11 a.m, Piedmont accepted. At 2 p.m, my father signed the papers." Part 4. The Aftermath. Sale closed on February 15, 2024. Mitchell Construction Company officially became a subsidiary of Piedmont Development Group. My father received his check for $765 million after debt and taxes. My mother received $2.36 million. Daniel received $382 million. I received my first paycheck as president of Mitchell Construction on February 29th. But the real moment came on February 16th. When I walked into the office for the first time in almost 3 months, the employees were gathered in the main conference room, confused and nervous. They'd heard rumors but didn't know what was coming. Marcus Webb stood at the front of the room. "Thank you all for being here. As you know, Piedmont Development has acquired Mitchell Construction. Some of you are worried about what that means for your jobs, your benefits, your future." He paused. "I'm here to tell you that not only are your jobs safe, but we're investing in this company. In you. We're increasing the operations budget by 30%. We're hiring more staff. We're pursuing bigger projects." Relief washed over the room. "But more importantly," Marcus continued, "we're changing the leadership structure. Richard and Daniel Mitchell are no longer with the company. The new president, effective immediately, is someone who knows this company inside and out. Someone who's proven she can lead. Someone who's built most of what makes this company valuable." He gestured to the doorway where I was standing. "Please welcome President Lauren Mitchell." The applause started slow, then built. Some people were shocked. Some were smiling. But as I walked to the front of the room, I saw Maria Gonzalez, our longest-serving project coordinator, a 56-year-old woman who'd been with the company for 17 years, wipe tears from her eyes. After the meeting, Maria pulled me aside. "Is it true?" she asked. "That you fought for us? That you made sure we got equity?" Word had already spread. "Of course it had. You all earned it," I said. "You kept this company alive through everything. You deserve to benefit when it succeeds." She hugged me hard. "I've been in construction for 30 years. This is the first time anyone's treated me like I matter." That moment, right there, was worth more than any amount of money. Over the next 3 months, I rebuilt Mitchell Construction into what it should have been all along. I promoted Maria to senior project manager. I hired 2 new operations coordinators, both women. I implemented transparent pay scales and performance-based bonuses. I brought in a consultant to improve our safety protocols and workplace culture, and the company thrived. We completed the Tysons project 3 weeks ahead of schedule and $200,000 under budget. We landed 2 new contracts worth a combined $8.9 million. Client satisfaction scores hit all-time highs. In May 2024, Piedmont offered us a bonus pool of $500,000 to distribute to the team based on performance. It was the first time in the company's history that everyone, from the office staff to the construction crews, got a meaningful bonus. My father heard about all of it, I'm sure. McLean is a small town in the ways that matter. But he never called, never congratulated me, never acknowledged that maybe, just maybe, he'd been wrong. Chapter 11. Family Wounds. My mother was the first to break the silence. In June 2024, she asked to meet me for lunch. I agreed, mostly because I was curious. We met at a restaurant in Georgetown, neutral territory. She looked thinner, older. Her hands shook slightly as she opened her menu. "You look good," she said. "Successful." "I am successful. Your father won't admit it, but he's been following the company's progress. He knows about the Tyson's project, about the new contracts. Good for him." She winced at my tone. "Lauren, I know you're angry. Mom, I'm not angry anymore. I'm done. There's a difference. He's your father, and I'm his daughter. But he's never treated me like I mattered as much as Daniel. You've never treated me like I mattered as much as Daniel." "That's not true." "It is true. Daniel got unconditional love and support. I got conditional approval based on how useful I was. And when I stopped being useful in the way Dad wanted, he discarded me." My mother was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that shocked me. "You're right." I looked up. "What?" "You're right. About all of it." Tears streamed down her face. "I spent my whole marriage being the good wife. Staying quiet. Keeping peace. Supporting your father's decisions even when I disagreed. And I taught you to do the same thing. Mom, let me finish. I watched you work yourself to exhaustion for that company. I watched your father promise you things and never deliver. I watched Daniel coast on your work. And I said nothing because that's what I'd been taught to do. Stay quiet. Don't make waves. Support the men." She reached across the table and grabbed my hand. "I'm so sorry, Lauren. I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you. I'm sorry I enabled your father's sexism. I'm sorry I taught you that your worth was tied to how much you sacrificed. I wasn't prepared for this." For her to actually acknowledge it. "I don't know if I can forgive that," I said honestly. "I don't expect you to. But I need you to know that watching you stand up for yourself, watching you demand better, it's made me realize how much of my own life I've wasted being quiet." She wiped her eyes. "I've started seeing a therapist, working through my own issues. It's probably 30 years too late, but it's not too late to change," I said softly. "I don't know if your father and I will make it," she admitted. "He's so angry all the time, bitter. He blames you for everything, but I think deep down he knows he did this to himself." "That's not my problem to fix, Mom. I know it's not," she squeezed my hand. "But I hope someday we can have a relationship again. Not like before. Something new. Something honest. I thought about it. Maybe, if you keep doing the work, if you keep choosing to be different. I will," she promised. "We'll see. Trust is built in drops and lost in buckets, as my grandmother used to say." But it was something. Daniel reached out in August. Not to apologize, but to ask for help. He'd burned through $600,000 of his inheritance in 6 months. A new house, new cars, a boat, private school deposits for Jackson. Vanessa's spending had spiraled. They were in financial trouble. I met him for coffee. He looked desperate. "I need advice," he said. "You're good with money, with business. I thought maybe you could help me invest what's left, make it grow." "No," I said simply. "Lauren, please. I know I screwed up. I know I didn't appreciate you. But I'm your brother. Jackson is your nephew. I'm asking for help, and I'm saying no. You got $382 million, Daniel? If you can't make that work, that's a you problem. You're really going to let me fail? You're not failing. You're experiencing the consequences of your choices." "There's a difference. He got angry then. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Watching me struggle while you're successful. This is revenge. It's not revenge. It's boundaries. For 10 years, I cleaned up your messes. I covered for your incompetence. I made you look good. And you let me because it was convenient. Well, I'm not convenient anymore. I'm sorry," he said, and he might have even meant it. "I'm sorry for how we treated you. For Thanksgiving. For all of it. I appreciate that. Really. But sorry doesn't mean I'm going to rescue you. Then what am I supposed to do? Figure it out. Get a job, budget, make hard choices. You know, adult things." I left him at the coffee shop. He called 3 more times over the next month. I didn't answer. November 2024. 1 year after the Thanksgiving that changed everything. Mitchell Construction had its best year in company history. Revenue hit $21.3 million. We'd hired 26 new employees. We'd won industry awards. Piedmont was so pleased they'd increased my equity stake to 15% and were discussing expanding our territory. I'd moved into a beautiful townhouse in Old Town Alexandria. I'd started dating again, a civil engineer named David who thought my competence was sexy instead of threatening. I'd reconnected with friends I'd neglected during my decade of servitude. I was happy. Really, genuinely happy. The day before Thanksgiving, Patricia called me. "Your father wants to meet." My stomach tightened. "Why?" he didn't say. "Just asked if I could arrange it. It's your call." I thought about it for a long time. Then I said, "Okay, neutral location. You present." We met at Patricia's office on Thanksgiving morning. My father looked older than he had even in February. Smaller, somehow. He wouldn't quite meet my eyes. "Thank you for agreeing to this," he said. I said nothing. "I've been thinking a lot this year. About the company. About what happened. About—" He faltered. "About you." "Okay. I was wrong." The words hung in the air. "I was wrong about a lot of things," he continued. "I was wrong to promise you partnership and never deliver. I was wrong to give Daniel credit for your work. I was wrong to structure the sale the way I did. And I was wrong to believe that being a man made him more deserving than you." I still said nothing. Let him sit with it. "Your mother told me about her lunch with you." About what she said. She was right too. We raised you to be strong and capable and brilliant. And then we punished you for being all those things because it made Daniel look bad by comparison. "It made you look bad too," I said quietly. He flinched but nodded. "Yes, it did. And I couldn't handle that. So I told myself that you were too aggressive, too ambitious, that you didn't understand family loyalty. But the truth is you understood it better than any of us. You gave everything to that company, to our family, and we threw it away." "Yes," I said. "You did. I'm sorry, Lauren. I'm genuinely deeply sorry. I studied him. This man who'd been larger than life in my childhood, who'd seemed invincible and all-knowing. He looked human now, flawed, broken. I appreciate the apology," I said, "but I need you to understand something. I'm not looking for your approval anymore. I don't need you to validate my success or acknowledge my worth. I know what I'm capable of. I've proven it to myself and to everyone who matters. I know that. Do you? Because for my entire life, your approval was the thing I chased. I built my whole identity around being the daughter who made you proud. And it was never enough. I was never enough. Not because I wasn't capable, but because I wasn't Daniel." His face crumbled. "You were always enough. More than enough. I just couldn't see past my own outdated beliefs about who should inherit, who should lead, who should matter." I finished. "Yes." We sat in silence for a moment. "I've watched what you've done with the company this year," he said. "The growth, the culture changes, the employee equity program. It's brilliant. It's better than anything I ever built, and I'm proud of you." The words I'd wanted to hear my whole life. But hearing them now, I realized I didn't need them anymore. "Thank you," I said. "But you should know I didn't do it for you. I didn't do it to prove anything to you. I did it because it was right, because those employees deserved it, because I deserved it. I know. That's why it means something. Does it change anything?" I asked. "Between us?" He thought for a long time. "I'd like it to. I'd like to try to have a relationship with you. Not like before. Something new. If you're willing." I looked at Patricia. She gave me a small nod. "Your call?" "Maybe," I said finally. "But it has to be on my terms. No more broken promises. No more empty words. If you say you're proud, you show it. If you want a relationship, you do the work. And you never ever compare me to Daniel again. Agreed. And you need to accept that I'm running the company now. It's mine, not in ownership, but in every way that matters. If you can't handle that, if you're going to undermine me or second-guess me or resent me, then we can't do this." "I won't," he said. "I promise." "We'll see," I said. "Trust is earned, Dad. You have a lot of earning to do." "I understand." We didn't hug. Didn't have some tear-filled reconciliation. But we shook hands. And it felt like something. A beginning, maybe. Or at least not an ending. Epilogue. Thanksgiving 2024. This year, I hosted Thanksgiving at my townhouse. Not a huge gathering. Just me, David, Rachel and her family, Maria from work and her husband, and Patricia and her wife. My mother called that morning. "I'm having Thanksgiving with your father and Daniel, but I wanted to hear your voice. To tell you I'm thankful for you. Thanks, Mom. Are you happy?" I looked around my home that I'd bought with my own money. At the table I'd set for people who actually valued me. At the life I'd built on my own terms. Yes, I said. I really am. Good. You deserve it, sweetheart. You always did. After dinner, Rachel raised her glass. I'd like to make a toast. To Lauren, who taught all of us this year that sometimes being strong means walking away. That sometimes loving yourself means letting go of people who don't love you back. And that women don't have to shrink themselves to make men comfortable. Here, here, everyone chorused. David squeezed my hand under the table. You're amazing, he whispered. I know, I said, and I meant it. Later that night, after everyone had left, I stood on my balcony looking out at Old Town Alexandria lit up for the holidays. My phone buzzed. A text from my father. Thank you for giving me a chance. I won't waste it. Proud of you. Dad, I smiled. Maybe he meant it. Maybe he didn't. But either way, I'd be fine. Because here's what I'd learned this year. You can't control how other people value you. You can't force your family to see your worth. You can't make people appreciate your sacrifices or acknowledge your contributions, but you can walk away. You can demand better. You can build a life where you're valued, respected, and celebrated for exactly who you are. It took me 10 years and one devastating Thanksgiving to learn that lesson. But honey, let me tell you, it was worth every painful moment. My name is Lauren Mitchell. I'm 34 years old. I'm the president of a thriving construction company. I'm building wealth on my own terms. I have people in my life who celebrate my success instead of resenting it. And I've never been happier. That's the thing they don't tell you about standing up for yourself. Yes, you might lose people. Yes, it might hurt. Yes, there will be consequences and hard conversations and painful realizations. But what you gain? Self-respect, peace, authentic relationships, real success is worth infinitely more than what you lose. So, to anyone reading this who's in a similar situation, who's sacrificing themselves for family members who don't appreciate it, who's being taken for granted, who's watching less capable people get more credit, walk away, demand better, build something that's truly yours. You deserve more than crumbs from someone else's table. You deserve the whole damn feast. And trust me, when you finally claim it for yourself, it tastes sweeter than anything you ever imagined. Happy Thanksgiving!